Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
With the sun and it burns until the day is done.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Nice looking Friday. Hope you're doing well. If you have a horse, maybe you'll be out horse riding today. Oh, I saw a really cute video too. Oh, I hope Tammy has seen this one. This is Horse Sense with the Equine Alliance of Marion County. Tammy Gantt is in the studio this morning to educate us on this industry, this profession, this hobby, this passion that has made Marion County synonymous with horses. And good morning, Tammy. How are you?
I'm very good. I want to hear about this video first, I guess, before we get in our horse topics roundup.
Yeah. I saw this video, and I sent it to Crystal. She was, of all of you, I think she's the only one whose email address I have, so I apologize for not sending it to everybody. But it's in it's a foreign-speaking country, maybe it's Ecuador or something. But there's a TV show being made and a video being made in like a barn, and the cameraman has got his back up against a stall, and he's videotaping the people talking and the horse and all that. But the horse behind him is nudging up against the cameraman's head. And the guy must be comfortable with horses because he didn't freak out or anything. Now the horse's huge teeth, they're like kind of like biting on his ear just gently, and he's like, you could tell the cameraman was just having a blast with this whole thing, and the horse was just hilarious to watch. I mean, just so playful.
Yeah, sometimes I think they see the cameras and they know they're natural movie stars. So I'm sure the horse was just trying to get on air. I'm just sure.
I actually have a question from that, though, from watching that. I would be a little bit intimidated. Those teeth look pretty big. Does a horse know not to bite you to the point where it hurts?
Well, I think just like dogs, every once in a while your dog will give you a playful nip. It's the same with horses. I think horses, by nature are herd animals and are friendly, and they actually will use their teeth to nuzzle each other on the withers, which I say horses are kissing when they do that. Uh-huh. So it's a natural thing, and they have a prehensile nose because they have the little lip that moves.
Right.
They usually feel it out with the lip first and do a little nippling. Now, sometimes they can get a little rough, just like kids can in horseplay.
Yeah.
But typically they kind of know, and they know they've got some big chompers there, and they have very big tongues too. So sometimes you'll get a big dog lick from them.
I got to get your email address. I'll share it with you. It's I did send it to Crystal, so maybe she shared it with somebody else, some of your others. So, anyway, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. We've got just a lot of stuff going on in the equine community, so I decided we'd do like a little horse roundup. So I've got some things that happened, going to happen, economic impact, and maybe if we have time, talk a little bit about some legislation affecting equines. I know that sounds boring, but
really?
It actually is fairly interesting.
State legislation?
Actually, national legislation.
National?
It was at the American Horse Council in Washington, D.C. A little disappointed when I went up because they say there's a ride-in. So I thought we were going to get to ride horses to the Capitol, but unfortunately you have to walk up to Capitol Hill. So other than that slight disappointment where I thought I was going to be riding a horse into Congress, it was still a very, very, very good session. And they're working on a lot of things legislatively that affect all sectors of horses, from recreation horses to show horses to horses traveling internationally. So we'll get into that in a minute. But one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, very exciting, this week on Monday at On Top of the World Communities, they have a Master the Possibilities program. And they had 150 people come out for Jacinto Vasquez.
Oh, good. Oh, we had him on.
Did you have him on?
Yeah,
wonderful.
we
He's
sure
Hall
did.
of Fame jockey, so as you know. And I won't go into too much detail. It was an hour and 15 minutes presentation and talk that he did answering questions from everything about how much does a jockey have to weigh to how was it to beat Secretariat, because he's one of the jockeys in history that beat Secretariat twice on two different horses, but he actually beat him a third time in the horse's first race. He didn't win that race, but he blocked Secretariat, so Secretariat didn't win the race. So real interesting jockey, very humble considering that he was inducted in the Hall of Fame only 2 years after his career ended, which is pretty spectacular.
Wow. Do you know what he said to us that I found that I would have never known? I always thought thought that the jockey had a long-term relationship with the horse they were on. Like they were part of the training, they were there the whole time. But he said no. Sometimes he meets the horse for the first time and then gets on it and races.
It was funny because he made that comment when someone asked him. He goes, "Well, you get to know them the moment you're in the paddock because you're professional. So it's like a professional anything. You kind of go into the field that you haven't played on before, and many things are you can draw comparisons from other sports. But what was interesting is he goes, "Yeah, it's a quick meeting," and I said it's kind of like a speed date. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it got a little chuckle from the crowd because a lot of them are like, speed dating, what is that? But also it was kind of like that. You have to immediately know within 30 seconds to a minute a little bit about that horse. And the trainer will tell you some of the horse's quirks if they have any. The gate crew knows because they've worked with that horse during schooling in the morning. So they know the horse, how he likes to break from the gate. So the gate crew has given that jockey a little insight on that horse. And so all that team working together helps that horse, get into that race. But some horses are very, very finicky. Some horses, a horse named Zenyatta, very famous female horse. Before her races, she had to do this little dance routine. She had to pace around and do this.
Really?
And if she did not do that in the paddock or before the gate, it just wasn't her, she just had to do that. And so
That's a prima donna horse,
allowed her to do that. Yeah. And she would do her little stomping. Other horses will just stop and they'll just stare at the sky before the race. They just have to have this moment where maybe it's like us, we are collecting our thoughts. So horses always have some personality. And so when you see them quickly go to the gate and break out, you don't realize that. But the jockeys immediately, it's just like meeting people. You get a good sense about, wow, I really like this person. That person has some interesting things. The same thing with horses, and those jockeys do it in a much quicker fashion.
Wow, and it's just fascinating but is there always somebody with the horse that is that has been with that horse for a long time?
Yeah, the horses have their regular grooms and people that work with them on a daily basis. You'll have exercise riders that work with many horses and sometimes horses they don't know, but they always have a regular person that is always there for them, with them, and knows their personality better than anything. And they also know, well, the horse didn't eat all of his hay. He usually eats all of his hay. I need to watch that. Or the horse usually drinks a certain amount of water. I notice that, just like you would with your kids. So what happens is they do, and what happens is they develop very close relationships. And some grooms, for example, the famous horse Man of War, his groom Will Harbut was with him his whole life. And when that horse died at 30 years of age, Will died a few months later, and people thought that he was probably heartbroken because he used to bring the horse out for tours and people that would come see the horse because the horse was such a big deal in the 20s and 30s and 40s. And when they would bring him out, Will would say he's the mostest horse, and he's it. And he talked about the horse as though it was his son. So there are deep relationships that last well after the horse retires from racing. And then just recently at Double Diamond, a really wonderful Florida-bred champion, Wekiva Springs, passed away, and he of old age. He was just very, very old, and he passed away. And his farm, obviously took it very hard because he's been their friend there for almost 30 years after his racing career, and he was kind of gray, and now he was all white, still very energetic until he passed away. But they're going to put a stone for him and put where he's buried, and that says a lot about it when those horses mean so much that you take these steps that you would do the same as if it's a family member.
Really?
Yeah.
I was reading this thing about a horse that was in a cemetery, a human cemetery, and it's the only horse in this cemetery, and the reason is because this was the horse that used to draw the wagons that carried the caskets, and it did it all of its life. That was its job. Every time there was a funeral, this horse was the one that basically carried the body from wherever to
a more appropriate place for the horse to
so the
be
horse
around
has a place there too.
Yeah, and I think there are other probably personal family plots in history that same type of thing has happened.
As long as we're on the morbid thing, I do have a morbid kind of a question.
We're really getting off topic.
Yeah, I know,
I'll
but
get back on.
I know, and we have a little break in about 35 seconds, so I'll be real quick. Like if you are with the horse and you're at the beginning of the race, and you're the one who's really the one who loves the horse, and then the jockey who just met the horse starts racing, and I think Jacinto said that he was on a horse once that broke 2 legs, right?
Yeah, very famous horse.
And so that horse had to be shot. I mean, that would break my heart if I was the guy
well,
who was...
she was put down, yeah. And people today still cry over this horse because she was...
And what was the name of the horse?
Her name was Ruffian, and it was one of the last match races ever in the United States.
Wow.
And that was his favorite horse. And so even today, when he talks about her, you can see a bit of sorrow with him and with anyone that knows her, because she was truly a champion, and it was just a sad loss.
Tammy Gantt is here, and this is Horse Sense. And we need to take a little break, and we'll be right back. And this is WOCA Ocala.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Each time we tell even a small white lie, we get a boost in stress that directly impacts our health. So when is it better to use a debit card? If you tend to overspend, when you can't actually see the money you're spending, it is easy to get carried away and rack up huge charges that may be difficult to pay back. Good middle ground is to address somebody the way they introduce themselves to you. So if you say, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Ferguson," then stick with the Mrs.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
You've got a garden, and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Yeehaw! Howdy, folks. RL here to invite you to DQ. Dairy Queen is serving the crispiest, juiciest, most tasty chicken tenders, all beef chili dogs, and quarter-pound cheeseburgers on earth. And you get crispy fries, a drink, and an ice cream sundae of your choice for only $5. Remember, at DQ, you can lick their cones, but you can't beat their shakes. Dairy Queen, Silver Springs, where they always treat you like kings and queens.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Frederick's Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Frederick's Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Frederick's Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Frederick's Appliance.
News Talk 1370 WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults. So use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
All right, 22 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Let's return to Horse Sense. Tammy Gantt is here answering our questions about horses, and I feel like I've taken you off track today, Tammy. So let's get back on track.
In a very good way.
Oh,
in a very good way.
Glad.
Anything horse makes me happy. So before I continue, I want to mention our sponsors very briefly. It's Infinite Day Spa, Alma-Rob Arabians, Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, Farm Tours of Ocala have sponsored a show, Live Oak, and then also Images by DeMarco. So I want to mention them very quickly. And then what I want to mention, too, is some upcoming horse events. Very busy in the spring, but we've got some wonderful stuff coming up. Actually, over at the Ag Center, we have a miniature horse show this weekend. Paso Fino show this weekend. One of the top stallions in the country will be there.
Okay.
Next weekend is a miniature horse show, and they have almost all the top miniatures in the country are represented in Florida. So that show will be a real showstopper, if you should say. Wonderful. And what's interesting is if you've never seen a miniature horse show, it's really worth the effort.
You own a miniature horse?
I do own some minis, but mine are not trainable. They think they're wild horses, but the miniature horses will be real trained. Lightning is 26 inches tall.
Okay.
And about the size of a golden retriever. I had a golden, so she's smaller than him in height, not in weight. And then Thunder's 29 inches, and they were used for mascots for the racetrack in Miami for 10 years, and then they retired. But during their tours, they visited children's hospitals. They went on pet walks. They went on American Cancer Society walks in Miami. They went to Miami Heat games. They went
Can
to
they
Marlins
live
games.
in the house, or they can't be housebroken?
Mine
or what?
are a little rowdy.
Okay.
Fender likes to get into things in classrooms. He would pull homework off the desk, unplug computers.
Oh,
so
no.
Mine don't live in the house, but they do have miniature horses that are seeing eye horses that can work with the blind, maybe that are allergic to dogs or have an aversity to dogs. So they've trained horses to work with people that are blind, and so they do that, and the horses respond very well to that. Now, these two were trained to be able to go in elevators and up escalators, especially in the hospital, to go to the children's wards.
Wow.
And so But my minis won't be in that miniature horse show because they don't do all the things that the minis do for competition. Okay. And then we have also just really exciting, a big shout out to the 4-H Equine Specialty Club here of Marion County. The students, 5 riders qualified for the national show in Raleigh at the end of the month. And so they're doing a bit of a fundraiser. So if you pick up Wire to Wire in the next couple of days, it'll have some information if you want to help them out with their transportation costs, because they usually don't have 5 riders qualifying. Then we also have the Marion County Therapeutic Riding Association.
Okay.
If you go online on Facebook, look them up, look on their website, they're trying to win a Gypsy Vanner for their therapy program. And this Gypsy Vanner horse is spectacular, but they have to get the most votes and the most likes.
Oh,
so I encourage
okay.
people, if you support that therapeutic riding program, to get out there on your computer. If you don't know how, get on social media, find it, and start voting for them so they can win that horse.
All right, got to remember to do that.
Yeah, so
it's easy to do, and I like them. And
yeah, and it's very fun, kind of a fun thing to do. So that's kind of the roundup for that. Also, well in the future, we have Farm City Week, and Marion County participates in Farm City Week, which is a national event that happens the 3rd week of November. So I'm talking way ahead, but I want to mention it because it's just grown and grown and grown, and I'm looking for my flyer on the actual date. They do an Ag Hall of Fame induction dinner in which all the students serve locally sourced food. It's students that work with the 4-H and FFA that help put on the event, and it'll be over at the Ag Center, and that's in November, so just watch for information. We also coordinate with the downtown businesses to serve farm-sourced meals, and we'll have a retired thoroughbred out at a festival we'll do that week also, and the festival is wonderful. We invite all the kids in schools to come on out with their families, and it'll be on a Saturday, and what happens is, it might be a Sunday, I'll have to check on that, but what happens is they'll have, you can see sheep shearing, you can make butter. Last year, the funnest thing they did was jump from bale to bale to bale while the horses watched them jump on their food. A lot of fun. But the Farm City Week is really, really geared toward letting people know where our food comes from. And so actually going out and seeing the agriculture sector and meeting animals, and there'll be a farmer's market and learning about how you plant your trees, but all in one space of time. So it's very exciting.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of stuff. Wow, to look forward to.
Yeah.
So as far as the events that happen downtown, I just wanted to point this out, that we don't see too many live horses. We have I love them, by the way. What do we call them again? The horse fever horses? The horse fever horses, yeah. And what's interesting, downtown, you will see the horse carriage company. They come out and they'll do rides on certain special events. There's also this miniature horse that I haven't met, my horses haven't met, that makes an appearance periodically for the Downtown Friday Art Walk. And so you'll see a few down there. And I was that old, like a lot of them last year. They pop up periodically, usually on the corner at Starbucks. I've seen the horse 3 times there. I've also seen the horses, miniature horses, with the Gentle Carousel group, and they do an appearance quarterly over at the library. And the horses read stories to the children. And so there's a lot of horses kind of in the downtown. What you'll see mainly is your mainstays, your horse fever horses that are out there with great photo ops. I always see people taking photos with the horse fever horses. Can we go back to something, when you said something about the legislation that the government is looking at? Is it something you support? Is it legislation you like? Yeah, there's a few things on the books, and I'll go into more of the general equine one. I got to look them up to make sure I've got them right. The exciting one that would probably most people here would be interested in, well, actually two. One is there's a Veterinary Medicine Mobility Act, and what that means is veterinarians go off-site
and have medicines in their trucks and service horses, because it's very easy to go to a horse than it is to bring a sick horse into a clinic necessarily. And so this affects shows, this affects farms, many sectors. So what happened is when the DEA had a policy put in place, it actually made it sound illegal that veterinaries could do this. And this is a common practice that's been done. And of course, their vans and their vehicles are locked in controlled environments. So this act was put forth, and what it would do is it would allow them to continue those mobile services. So that's one of those things. It's a good thing, but it was one of those things you got to catch it and make sure so that your veterinary can continue to do what they need to do for the horses. The other one that's really exciting was there was a gentleman that talked. He's with the Backcountry Horsemen, and what they do is they help keep the trails clear in the United States, and they take over where the Park Service cannot. What's happened though is they can only do so much because of legal restrictions. So there's a recreational trails bill that's in Congress right now, and also it's called the Forest System Trails Stewardship Act. And the idea is that they can be empowered to do more, because it's not just about keeping those backwoods open for equestrian camping and going through and going riding with horses. They also use this to train our military personnel. And so military personnel will go on horseback and camp, certain periods of times in very rugged environments, like in mountainous parks. I'm trying to think of Yosemite, those types of parks, so that they can get that experience of what they might have to do on the ground. But this group is very important because they right now lost a bit of a battle with the Grand Canyon, where mules can no longer take people down the Grand Canyon and donkeys. And that was done for generations.
And why did they want that to stop?
Well, they said that the environmentalists said that it was too damaging. It was eroding some of the trails that were there. Also, they just felt that the environmental impact from the manure from the animals. And even though the people have a pack in, pack out policy with whatever you take in, you take out, obviously that's something that remains. However, that's been done for many generations to have people enjoy the park. And so we don't know if that'll get revisited. But there have been certain trails that have closed that you wouldn't know until you get there. And that's the type of thing that this type of legislation helps just create awareness. Even horses on beaches used to, I heard that people used to ride their horses down Hallandale Beach and Hollywood Beach, and over time those have changed.
Oh, that's got to be a pretty picture.
Yeah, and so right now there's a very, very few beaches in the U.S. that you can actually take a horse and ride down, which is a wonderful experience.
Have you done that?
I have done it. And it is wonderful. They do a one-day one where you can take them to an island.
Why is it wonderful? Just what are you
there's something about
experiencing?
that. I think that whole visual, like you said, the water, the wind in your hair, your horse galloping along the beach, and just that visual you see where you think, oh, it's just ultimate freedom. And it's different than if you're riding them through the forest or through the countryside. And I think people that want to ride a horse, that's one of the first things they kind of think of, oh, what about on a beach? Because they see that in a lot of commercials. But so some of those things are the types of things that they look at. And a couple other things. One is these factor into taxes. So if someone has an equine, there's an Equine Tax Parity Act, which basically horses that are used for breeding, racing, showing, or draft purposes qualify for capital gains rates right now if they're held for 24 months. But other business assets like cattle qualify at 12. So they're looking at things that can give tax breaks to equine owners that make good sense, that are parallel to other business assets. And there's a couple with racehorses that are on the agenda also that are talking about banning in medications for horses at the racetrack. And then also another Racetrack Cost Recovery Act, where a horse, when he's put in service, it expired. So a horse now, if he's put in service as a yearling, then it has to be 7 years depreciation, when really most racehorses race about 3 years. So they want that to be put back into where the horses start their career at 2 years and a day, and then it's a 3-year depreciation. So things like that are a little kind of not as interesting to talk about, but very, very important for the equestrian industry just to kind of be aware of.
So you mentioned medications, and I wanted to bring something up. A few weeks ago, because we partnered with the Chamber and Economic Partnership, and what our role is in the show simply is to mention a ribbon cutting ceremony. So there was a ribbon cutting ceremony at a new pharmacy, and in the little spiel that I had to read, it said human and equine compounding, equine compounding. How important is that? And is that is that something like you can't get at any pharmacy?
No, there's places that you can get those types of things. Some have to be from your licensed veterinarian. Just like if you go to your doctor or pharmacist, there's certain things that your veterinarian will prescribe you can get. Sometimes
I see.
You'll get them from your veterinarian. Other times they're over the counter, just like our medications would be. Sometimes they're like, oh, they got a sore ache, and so they need to put a compound on it to relieve the ache, like we would go and buy Bengay, for example. So there's just like we would have, there's different varieties of drugs and different procedures to get those. What they're talking about a ban with medication is specifically other things that could be in a horse's system when he runs in a race. And if I'd like to, I know I've got like just about a minute left.
Just a little bit under, yeah.
Okay, very quickly, I wanted to mention we were doing an economic impact study for Marion County with the CEP and VCB. Even if you're a supporting industry, if you touch equine in any way, like you sell people from come into your restaurant that are equine people, anything like that, please fill out this survey. You're going to see it coming out in the next month. Really, really critical. And the last thing I'll leave you with is we wanted to mention how much does it cost for a racehorse in training annually, and we figured that we did a study recently. $25,000 a year, and that also impacts our community.
Wow. Tammy, you always squeeze in a lot of information.
Try to, yes.
Thank you for doing that. It's fun.
You can visit our website at www.ftboa.com or the Equine Alliance Facebook page. We'll have some more of this information.
Excellent. Thank you. Great show. Share the show with your friends. It'll be on Facebook. It's about 2 o'clock today. Thank you, Tammy. We'll be right back.
Both sides of the Ukraine conflict blaming the other for the downing of Malaysia Flight 17, and now Fox News learning some details of a preliminary classified intel report. A senior U.S.